Good evening. If you would like to listen to a 38-year-old grown adult drone on for 15 or 20 minutes about rockered, big wheel, inline skating, urban tri-power roller blade skate frames and boots and liners, you've come to the right place. So this is the third in a series of Wizard update videos. Wizard skating, Wizard boot, Wizard setup videos. The first video, I think I have a beanie on and I got the green wheels. And the second video, I believe I have the all white wheels and a yellow shirt. And I think that one's called Wizard Update. So if you want to watch those before watching this one, you can do so and you'll be caught up. But I can give you the quick notes on the 3 iterations of the Wizard setup that I've been in. There was the mid 2010s version, which was the gutted boot, where Leon had to take the foam out of the CJ or SX boot. And it was the V1 all black Intuition liner, and that was the era of the Wizard 90s, the NR 90s, the NR 100s, and the NR 110s. Then there was a factory made gutted boot, which was this one, which I talked about in I think the video where I had the beanie where I was sitting at the table. That they came linerless out of the factory. Ooh, there's fuzz on this one. And I'll talk about the sizing about all this. And then the last video, I talked about the new sizing, the new toe box. And then on that previous boot, I was in the V2 liner. So that was the yellow and black Intuitions. Now there's a whole bunch of different Intuitions. There are I think 3 aftermarket versions, and then there's the ones that come in FR skates and them skates. And this one that I'm very excited to talk about. Before I talk about this, thank you to everybody who's supported the Patreon up to this point. If you're into these kinds of super nerdy, in-depth videos and want more insight into MB8 nerdy stuff, things get extremely nerdy and in-depth, almost too much. But if you enjoy that, join the Patreon. And if you want to see me skate these and give you my thoughts, you can join the Patreon too. There's a lot of good stuff coming. Props to everyone who supported it. But I'm here to talk about these skates, which is the newest iteration of the Wizard boot with the wider toe box, and it also has a little bit of a different fit in the heel, and the newest, the Intuitions that come, the Wizard Intuitions. These are super exciting, and I have all the different Wizards I've been skating. So the plan was MB8 was going to be all aggressive. We were so excited about the 909 with the Intuition. Just the whole energy around aggressive inline skating right now was very exciting. So we wanted to make a 100% pure aggressive inline only video. And I can't remember what clicked, but the Wizard feeling, the Wizard skating, Wizard frame testing, Wizard footage feeling was missing. Just not from the filming process of the video, but just from life in general. And I can't remember what the little spark was where we decided to bring back Wizard frame testing. But it's been way too fun filming them. We've released 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. I think we're going to do 5 more until we go back to filming for MB8. I think this liner and definitely the 5-wheel were part of it. Another part of it is that the wizard thing and the rockered big wheel frame thing is picking up steam and popularity, and it's cool to see people really interested in it and getting into it, because it's a very accessible style of skating. It's low impact, way more low impact than aggressive, and it's really open on what you can do and create on these things. So that inspired it too. Now where will I start? I guess I'll talk about the liner first. Oh, my foot size, I should have said this at the start. My foot size is 27.5. Previously, I skated a 43 linerless boot with a medium intuition. Usually without the wraps. Sometimes with, most of the time without. I liked that more ankle mobility feeling. Always with yellow Superfeet, of course. And now, which I talked about in the last video, I'm in a 42 because of the wider toe box, 42 shell of the newer shell. And I'm in a 27.5 to 28 intuition liner. There's a lot more sizes. This round you can look on the Wizard website for this liner. This is definitely the most exciting part about the current setup. The new boot's amazing because I was able to downsize one full size. Todd was in a 44 in the old boot, and he's in a 42 with the plastic shell now. I think he's going to record a video where he talks about his setup. That'll be on the Patreon though. But he was able to go down 2 full sizes from a 44 to a 42 in the plastic shell. And I was able to go down 1 to a 42. These skates with this liner, they're incredible. This liner, I'll talk about the liner. So there was a whole bunch of liner experiments that happened. You remember seeing those super tall red ones that I skated with, the 5-wheel Wizards, which I have right here. And those were the Pro Tongue ski liner, and they had really stiff wrap built in and a really stiff tongue built in. And that's why the long frame, the long 5x100 frame rode so amazing with that, because it was so stiff of ankle support. You could really feel the heel and the toe. It was too tall though, but it was cool to know. We tried to make, well, Leon made a liner. There was like a really weird ketchup and mustard looking liner, a sample, that the sizing was off and it was a bit too thick. But it was influenced, it was almost like the attempt at a Pro Tongue mixed with the V2 liner. But then Leon had more feedback and more ideas, and now this is the newest one where it's like the pro skate liner is the way I think of this liner. But it's the Wizard Intuition. You can only get it in the Wizard setup. It's got a harder tongue, and built-in hardest support, 3M reflective material. It's thinner, so you compare this to the Them Intuition or even the V1 or the V2, and it's really thin all around here. This toe box area is different. There's more space this way. But the thing that really makes this liner incredible is the hard tongue, and that it stays really thin all around here, but super supportive. You can feel it right away, and it's supportive and responsive, but thin and definitely feels like it requires way less break-in time than the V2 or the V1. And something that I didn't even try until last session, Stu told me about it, and Todd had been doing it, is this top loop. If you take your regular laces in your skate and lace the final lace from your skate through the top loop, it keeps the hard tongue and this hard piece all together, and you get that super supportive but amazing forward flex feeling. It almost reminds me of the way the Unnatural felt when you did everything up really tight around the top, and then you get that feeling that I got from the red liner where you can really feel the toe and the heel. And you can see, I don't want to toot our own horns, but in the most recent Wizard frame testing edits, the skating is better because of this liner and a more tighter fitting boot. Like Todd's 2 sizes down, I'm 1 size down. You do your skate up super tight and you have this thin liner, but then it's really supportive but thin, and it's still that Intuition foam, that responsive yet supportive yet comfortable feeling. Something I talked about in the last video, there's more room in the heel area in the newest version of the Wizard boots, so I actually do skate them with the shock absorbers, and I still of course skate the yellow super feet beneath, so I have a shock absorber and the yellow super feet, and that's all inside the boot. Sorry for saying but again, I'm not going to do the jump cut thing. Oh, push it in. This liner was designed exactly for this skate, for that toe box area. Yeah, like I said, the way the lace integrates with these laces, oh, just so good. So when we brought Wizard frame testing back, what did we start with? We started with filming the UC edit in the hundreds. Those are the newest mushroom blading wheels, Twin Peaks themed. We filmed the undercover edit in the hundreds and those boots. And then I'm trying to think. Then the first Wizard frame testing 21, Leon was in these, which is the crazy 5x100s. Those are them compared to the 4x90s. I was in these ones, and Todd was in the PR76. That edit was really cool because it was the first Wizard frame testing in a really long time, but we were all in different setups. That the Wizard setup had evolved into boots that were now came out of the factory linerless that had an adjusted toe box and feel, and now there was a Wizard line Intuition we were skating, and we were all in different iterations of the Wizard frame. Really cool to know how much it's evolved since Leon's Big Wheels 2 section, which was, God, 6 years ago now? I'm not sure. Then I'm not sure the sequence. Wizard frame testing 21 was that one. Then Wizard frame testing 22, I was back in the 5 wheels. And 23 in the 5 wheels. Bearings are sounding intense from skating parkades. I'll talk right now about the different uses because I finally got to skate. I'll apologize to Leon for skating them with the sole plates, wrecking. The new finish is really nice. I hadn't skated the 90 Wizards in 6 years. And I skated them with the sole plates for one of the Wizard frame testing edits, and since I was skating anti-rocker and short, low 50/50 frames on my aggressive setup, I wanted to give these a whirl again. So I couldn't believe how short they felt. And when these were new, they felt, or when they were first designed and I first got to try them, I was on 243 millimeter Seba deluxe slalom frames. And I remember thinking these felt long at the time, and now these feel short and almost sketchy, and not sketchy in my relation to what I really like to use, which is the 100 and the 5-wheel. So you would use the 90s if you're really into aggressive, or if you have small feet, or you want the closest thing to just a classic free skate 80 millimeter setup. Or if you're coming from aggressive, and you don't want to get too crazy with the Wizard thing. These are nimble and quick. The pivot points, like all the swivelly stuff, is all really tight on these. You can see it in Todd skating. Todd preferred these for the longest time. Anthony Potier killed it in these, and these are what ended up inspiring the flat frame, which I'm excited to see the next iteration. I really like these with the sole plates. I thought it was a good setup. It's weird, they even looked small on my boot. But they're not, they're longer. They're not long, but they're longer. Then this is my sweet spot still. This is the Wizard 100s. Just disregard the bolts. I keep them really loose when I quickly switch between frames. This is my personal sweet spot. If you're really into, this is kind of like the all-around Wizard for me. If I had to pick one, it would be this one. You can skate super long distances in it. You can do tricks with it. You can do flatland with it. I love the length of it. I love the coast of 100 millimeter wheels. I love the how I said the swivels and pivot points and things are very tight on this. These can be a little bit bigger, like your curves, your turns. I just love this. It's like a futuristic free skate frame, but it's a lot of frame that if you want to start, you can start with the 90s. If you want to get a little crazy, start with the 100s. The other thing to talk about is that this, I wouldn't recommend using this on many setups outside of the Wizard, but you could maybe get away with using this on some aggressive boots, and it would be supportive enough. But when you get into this, you want to use it on the Wizard setup or whatever. I don't know what other super stiff, supportive, responsive, low to the ground boots there are. But this is kind of like my go-to. I use this every single day on a trip to Vancouver in the morning, skated around the city listening to music. It was incredible. That the 90s and the 5-wheel Wizards just wouldn't be the same for that experience. It would be fun, but not nearly as fun as these. Then there's the 110s, which I don't have, and I want to get again. That Nicola Torelli guy really excites me to try them again. And watching some of the old edits, if the 110s would be if you really like city skating, forward and backwards, doing some slides, not going too crazy with tricks or swivels or anything, the 110s are it. But coast on those things. When I had a pair of those for trails and distance skating and things in town, I really enjoyed those. Or just for basic, going really fast, park skating. They're not as swivelly as the 100s or the 90s, but they are the cruisiness of them. And you need, I'm excited to try those because now there's an even more supportive liner, and the way that top lace thing works would feel really good with the 110s. The 110s are almost like the most underrated of all of them, I think, and I've been wanting to get them again. And there's no right answer now for what is the right Wizard or which ones you should get. I would say you have to have the 5-wheel if you're really into flat ground, And then I would say the 100 for overall, just all kinds of skating. So now, the 5-wheel, I was so into the 100s. Leon was just ahead of the times with the 5-wheel setup. I had these, and I didn't put it together on how amazing they were as like the flat ground setup. It clicked with me, I think, in the middle of filming MB7, when I would just go skate at like a school or something with like mostly flat ground with a few objects here and there, that the way you can lean into tricks and the pivot points on these is, the way I can describe it is less sticky, that there's more transition feel between certain tricks. They're lower to the ground. And lengthwise, let's see. You get more length. They're longer than the 100s. I don't even know if that's working. They're longer than the 100s. They're lower to the ground. They're more swivelly. They're just like an incredible frame for tricks. You could skate long distances in them and use it as an all-around frame, but they don't have the cruise feel of the 90 or the 100 or the 110. But this, to me, this is tricks and flat ground, and you can use it for park and stuff. But see, I don't have a right answer. I've been enjoying switching between all of them. Like, I'm even gonna skate the sole plates on the 100s. There's just too much fun stuff, especially if you have a boot and a liner that fits you incredible. All of the Wizard frames perform so well on this boot. And you can use this boot for aggressive as well. I haven't done it yet, but there's the sole plate, the dinner plate that I was using. I hadn't used this sole plate on any of the Wizard setups at all, because it was basically blasphemy. But I did remember in the Unnatural and the R100 that having a sole option, it was fun to have that option to do a few grind tricks. It's not recommended, but nobody's going to stop you. And if you watch that Potier edit in the 90s in the sole plate, really good. And it doesn't add too much ride height. I just wish that this was cut out of the middle and that these just mounted on the sides, and then you still got that direct connection of the metal to the carbon. So again, here are the 5x100s that I skated in some edits, and that Leon skated in Wizard Frame Testing 21. I haven't tried these yet with the newest liner, but I still feel like that boot is too low, and the boot and the liner need to be higher, with way more support around the top part of the ankle. Mostly because you really want to feel what this front wheel and back wheel are doing. And I feel like the boot and liner technology has not matched the power of this frame yet, which is why I skated it with a giant red ski liner and tried to experiment with K2 cuffs. This is a whole different animal. Just to put it into perspective again, I thought that the 90mm frames were quote unquote long, and then we got to this point. There's still a lot to explore on these though. It just needs the right boot and liner tech. Now, what are some other things that I would say? I really don't have any complaints about any of these things. It would be cool to see some graphic technology. This is like the perfect surface to put graphics on. That is just the tiniest little thing though. I do have a block, and an official block that Sola made that I got, I think, a couple tricks in for MB7, where you pop that middle thing out and put a H block in and grind, but it still isn't the right design. I think the flat frame block has that much more deep groove with more wheel protection, and the one that Sola made is like, it's kind of it doesn't have enough of a curve, and I got some wheel bite, so I'm not going to bring that out too much. And plus, again, these aren't meant for grinding. Leon has no plans to make blocks or anything for it, but we live in a time where it's cool to see all the crazy aftermarket stuff that's being made. It reminds me a lot of the 90s, that there's just companies making all kinds of stuff that you could add to the skate, whether it was meant for it or not. That it's more about the experimentation. I would love to see this boot in white or gray eventually, especially because it would match this liner. Did I say that this has 3M? Is it reflecting off this light? The reflective material is a nice touch and a nice throwback to the heel of the K2 skates. Safety first. What else was I gonna say? I think that's everything. I just want to say that this liner and the tight-fitting boot, but comfortable and responsive, and the 5-wheel frame, it's a really incredible setup that was so good that we actually had to change the idea to make MB8 all aggressive, and now it's going to have Wizard in it. Because the setup just felt too good, and it's inspiring too many tricks. And there's a clear... It's still... Wizard skating and this kind of skating is still very primitive, and there's lots to invent and come up with. And this technology is all still changing, and it's still in the early stages, but it's cool the jump between the early Wizard frame testing stuff and now is like these little technology improvements in the liner or the toe box, or going from a 90 to 100 to a 5-wheel Wizard. It's so exciting and it's so fun, and you get that feeling of you get that little kid excitement feeling of wanting to go use these and come up with new stuff. And it's easier on the body, and it'll influence and enhance your aggressive skating tricks, your aggressive inline skating ideas and tricks. And it's so fun and addictive. And I highly recommend getting a rockered big wheel setup if you can. And this is the original. It's the Wizard setup. Here's the ones that... This is what Leon used in big wheels too, and then it inspired the 100s and the 110s and the PR80s and the PR76. There were PR72s, there were PR90s and PR100s. There was even a famed NR84, I believe, that existed. But the only ones out for retail is the NR90, 100, and 110, and then there's the PR76, which is what Todd's in, and the PR80, which is what I'm in. And it's hard to just skate one, because they're all super fun. And I have no right answer about which is the right one for you, but hopefully this video helped. I can't wait to film Wizard frame testing. 26 is the next one? Can't wait. Thank you for watching. Keep skating or something. And consider joining the Patreon if you like this nerdy shit. Good night.